Welcome to another episode of Monday ReTsene with Pretoria Psychologists. My name is Mawelele, and today I'll be speaking to you about the journey to healing. Oftentimes when we bring up healing, people tense up and they just don't like that because it means confronting yourself and really looking into what is bothering you or is a problem for you. So in this episode, I'll be speaking to you briefly about what healing entails. I'll be looking at what the process is, why do we need to get healing, and some tips on how you can begin to facilitate emotional well-being and healing for yourself. So let's just jump into it. What is emotional healing and why do we actually need it? Emotional healing is a process. First and foremost, that's what I want to emphasize. It's not something that happens overnight. There's no time stamp to it as to this is when it starts and this is when it ends. But it's a process that one goes through, and sometimes it might require a kind of a lifetime situation. So this process requires for you to acknowledge certain things that have happened to you, especially regarding a painful experience or a pain that has been inflicted on you, maybe in a form of a trauma or maybe in a form of an actual experience. For instance, if you have lost a loved one, that was a painful experience, and we need to firstly acknowledge that it was actually painful. And secondly, we need to allow ourselves to feel the pain. Without allowing ourselves to feel the pain, we're saying that the pain is non-existent. You can acknowledge that, yes, it was painful, but if you don't allow yourself to actually feel it, it cannot be processed. So another part of processing, of healing rather, is to actually process the pain. This means feeling it and going through the motions and going through the ups and downs of all the pain that comes with it, allowing the pain to be felt in your body and going through the distress in the mind. So that's what basically emotional healing is. It's a process of acknowledging, allowing, and processing the pain that you have felt. So another aspect of healing, it involves empathy. First of all, you need to be kind with yourself. You need to understand that you're a human being. It doesn't mean you're weak just because you're feeling pain or you need to heal from a certain thing. People will hurt you, things will happen, life will come at you at 1,000 speed, and you need to stop and be empathic with yourself to say, you know what? That was actually rough, that was difficult, and any human being would have suffered or experienced it in a really hard way. And the second thing is to acknowledge that, you've done your best so far to cope with whatever the situation that you have been going through. Sometimes we think, healing or coping with a situation is a positive thing, but it's not. Sometimes it doesn't have to look that way. It can be the most uncomfortable. It can be the most just waking up every morning and being able to take a bath. That is sometimes just coping. It's taking a moment to acknowledge that you've been waking up, you've been doing this, you've been trying, you've been going to work, you've been carrying on with the duties that you still need to. It's finding strength even in the smallest things that you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis. It's not being necessarily going to a therapy and feeling like you're a superhero and feeling great. Some days you'll be feeling low and feeling sad and feeling overwhelmed, but you still find a way to keep going. So it's acknowledging those small little steps of trying to cope. Then you can see, okay, I'm in the process of trying to heal. What we also need to do is practice a lot of self-compassion. To say, I'm going to be compassionate with myself. I'm going to take it easy on myself. I'm not going to be hard with myself. And also acceptance. Accepting that this has happened, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're okay with it, but it's to say, this has happened to me, or this is what is currently happening, or this is my situation, and this is how I'm meant to cope with it at this time, or try to make do with what I have. So this is what healing involves. First and foremost, you have to give yourself a bit of room to say, okay, this is actually happening. And I also just want to remind you again, I've mentioned at the beginning that it's not a linear process. Healing does not start here and end over there, or it should happen quickly in the shortest space of time. Research shows us that, for instance, with grief, it takes at least a minimum of 2 years to begin to heal from the loss of a loved one. So why should we hurry and just rush the process of healing? So we need to give ourselves time. We need to allow the process to take place. That's the thing about processes of healing, is that there is no starting or ending. You could work on something today, maybe a part of why this problem had an impact on you, and you're feeling better. And 2 weeks down the line, you are triggered by something else. It doesn't mean you have gone back, but you're dealing with the pain or the experience at a different level. So give yourself a bit of time and understand that it's not a linear process. And when you feel like you're taking a step back, know that no, actually, you're probably dealing with another phase of the pain that you had experienced. And the second last thing that I would like to speak to you about today is that, why do we need healing? Everyone always says, but I'm fine, I'm okay. That thing is gone now. It's not going to change anything going back to it. But the question at hand is, are you really okay? Are you really coping well? Have you not suppressed? Have you not dismissed? Have you not denied yourself the opportunity to actually feel what you have felt? Does this thing come up in some way and creep up on you? Because often we find ourselves that we have been socialized to not try to get healing, but we have been socialized to dismiss and be strong and keep going and soldier on. But do these things facilitate for a healthier self, a healthier well-being, where we have dealt with our own issues, where we have looked at ourselves and said, what are the things that we have gone through and how are they impacting our lives? Some of us go through traumas. We go through difficulties that we're not even aware that they have impacted us in a negative way. And that's the reason why we need healing, because we tend to interact with people, and in our relationships we begin to see all these things creeping up and coming in because we have not done the work. The work is not easy, my friend. The work can be difficult, can be challenging, can be draining. But think about it as a process and not just, I need to go and do it right now. Take your time. Take it one day at a time. Whatever comes up, you deal with that and you go on and you do life. So I'm going to share lastly some tips on how we can do and begin to facilitate this healing in our own lives. So I've already mentioned some of the things on how you can begin to facilitate healing for yourself. So the first and most important thing is to acknowledge. Acknowledgement brings us into awareness. When we lack awareness into what is bothering us, what is challenging us, what is difficult for us, we cannot begin the process of healing. So as soon as we acknowledge, we're making ourselves aware that actually this is a bit of a challenge, this was painful, and therefore we can begin to move towards the direction of healing. Secondly, it's that self-compassion again. Be kind to yourself. Don't be your worst enemy. Don't criticize yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself that you should get over this. Perhaps that's what other people said to you, but you don't have to say that to yourself. Speak to yourself with kindness. Speak to yourself with gentleness, with love. Speak to yourself how you wish somebody else spoke to you in a kind way. Be compassionate with yourself. And thirdly, it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to figure it all out by yourself. Ask a friend, talk to a family member, get psychological help, meet with a therapist. Maybe some other people are going through the same thing that you're going through. And the point of it is not for them to fix it for you, but sometimes it's just to find a sense of relating, to say, you know what? Somebody actually understands what I'm going through. And that on its own can be very therapeutic. So think about it. As a community, we work best together. So even with therapy, with speaking to a friend or to a family member, to a congregation, to a pastor, get help, reach out. It doesn't make you weak to reach out to other people for help and support. And sometimes you will have to sit through some painful experiences, some painful memories, and some tears. It's okay. And what you need to do in those moments is to be mindful and to be present and to breathe in deeply and affirm yourself that you're okay, that you are safe, and that you have come this far and you will be able to keep going. So some of these skills your therapist can teach you, or your psychologist can teach you all of these to help you manage, especially those difficult moments when you're feeling triggered. And lastly, you cannot fix it all at once. You cannot do it all in one day, in one session. Like I said, it's a lifelong journey. You will deal with different intricate parts, but the biggest part is to start and be aware and open to the process of healing. I hope you do find your healing, whatever you have gone through, whatever experience you've gone through, and you make it through to the other side. See you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in.